It's the Blue Collar Breakdown! Welcome to the Blue Collar Breakdown! Starting right now!
All right, welcome to the Blue Collar Breakdown. I'm Tom Eddlem, your Blue Collar Economist. This is episode 25, War and How the Economy is Rigged. And this is the first of a series. And there's a couple of special things about this episode. First of all, it's the first non-Wednesday one I'm doing because last Wednesday I was busy. Among other things, I did cut the Kyle Anzalone show. So you want to check that out. You should like and subscribe to Kyle Anzalone's show. And you should like, share, and subscribe my podcast, of course. And also buy me coffee. There's a link at the end of the show if you want to do that. Help support the podcast so I can get a background or whatever. You know, I have a few ideas if I get some support from you guys, you listeners. Also, I have a piece coming up at the Libertarian Institute. Got to check that out. Libertarian Institute is really the best place to go to get whatever I write. And let's see. Okay. Let's see. Let's start with what we're going to do today. This is the first of a series about how the economy is rigged and specifically how it's related to war. And the idea behind it is this. As a general rule, as a libertarian, and I think most people who believe in the generally free market believe this basic principle, that if two people voluntarily agree to something in the market, if they agree to do an exchange, they both are better off. They're both richer. I went out and bought candy and presents and everything for Christmas. I'm better off because I have the presents. I would be not as well off if I couldn't buy them. The merchant is better off because they have my money. All right, that's how it works. You know, the society gets wealthier when there's free exchange and it's voluntary. However, when government gets involved, there's force involved. And that means, as a general rule, and pretty much as a universal, one person gets richer and one person gets poorer. Because let's face it, you wouldn't need the force of government if both sides were getting richer because they both agree to it. All right, that's the idea behind it. Okay, so that's the overlay of the philosophy. How it works generally across the economy is this. Working people pay trillions of dollars to the government every year. The government pays billions of dollars to billionaires and billionaire corporations, and the billionaires and billionaire corporations pay millions of dollars to the politicians, and the cycle continues. That's how it works. That's what I'm going to be reinforcing over the next 6 or 7 or 8 weeks, or however many weeks until I get sick of this. and today we're going to cover war and how war is that kind of a profit center. Okay. The trillions of dollars are pretty obvious with regard to war. The U.S. military right now is $1 trillion a year in a budget, and that's not including surveillance and veterans benefits and all the rest of that stuff. So, I mean, like, it's $1 trillion easily. The U.S. military establishment, or the military industrial complex, if you want to call it that, is $1 trillion operation. And war is the profit center of that military industrial complex. Because if there's no war and no threat of war, then they're going to cut the spending and they're going to lose their money. So what they do is they engage in wars in order to promote more billions, really more trillions every year, going into the military industrial complex so that more money can go into the billionaires' pockets, so that more millions can go into the politicians' pockets. Okay, but how does that work? All right, let me give you a couple of concrete examples today about how that works. Now, this isn't how it always works in every case. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. I could give you many. I mean, like we could go all the way back to the Iraq, not the Iraq, the Iran coup in 1953, where the United States did a coup on behalf of British Petroleum. Let's talk a little bit about specifically why we went into this is in the news too, right? Syria. Why are we in Syria? We have troops patrolling in Syria. 2 American soldiers were killed this past weekend as a result of their patrols. Why are we patrolling in Syria? Okay, that it's a legitimate question. All right. I want to add this first before I do this. I thought this was a nice little graphic to explain the money cycle. All right, you can see the taxpayers, they're losing trillions. The government gets the trillions, and the billionaires get the millions. And I didn't put the politicians in there, but they get the billionaires get the billions, and the politicians get the millions. There was only so many panels you could do that with that. Okay, but let's talk about Syria. I thought this was a great graphic, and the Libertarian Party of Massachusetts reposted it recently. It's an older one because you can see Dick Cheney is still in the graphic, and he died a couple months ago. But Libertarian Party of Massachusetts, by the way, I wrote this post, said, why are U.S. troops still patrolling in Syria? Guess the name of the company that got the exclusive drilling rights to parts of Syria's Golan Heights, and you might find the answer to your question. And you go and you look at this company called Genie Energy or Genie Oil and Gas, and the people on the advisory board are people like Dick Cheney, or they were Dick Cheney, Jacob Rothschild, a famous banking scion in Europe, Rupert Murdoch, James Woolsey, former CIA director, Bill Richardson, Larry Summers, and like it goes on and on. Mary Landrieu, like there were just a ton of very prominent former U.S. politicians who are raking in these consulting contracts, which are really lobbying contracts on behalf of the United States government. And I want to point to one in particular, this guy, James Woolsey, former CIA director. So the head of U.S. intelligence is in favor of this is part of this company. And as it turns out, Genie Oil got the exclusive drilling rights to part of the Golan Heights and discovered, there's a ton of oil. Now, Golan Heights is part of Syria legally. All right. Now, Israel just recently annexed it from Syria, but it was only because Syria was powerless to defend its territory. In fact, Israel has taken additional territory beyond the Golan Heights within Syria. And that's part of the reason why American troops are patrolling that, because they want to protect Israel there. But let's talk about the profit incentive here. So the U.S. government gets billions. They defend Genie Oil and Gas, and then the millions go down to people like this guy, James Woolsey. And he also gets money from other groups, like, for example, the Gatestone Institute. He was the original board of directors, the chairman of the board of directors of the Gatestone Institute, which was one of the key Islamophobic organizations in America. It was founded by one of the Sears and Roebuck heiress. I'm trying to think of her name. I can't think of it, but a huge Israel supporter. And the president is Nina Rosenwald, formerly of the ADL. And you could kind of go down the list here. The Ambassador John Bolton was the chairman for a number of years. This is an older list of officials. This is grabbed from using the Wayback Machine from 2013 when the organization was founded. You could see John Bolton. He was the chairman until Donald Trump made him his national security advisor. And the war in Syria continued to be prosecuted throughout Trump's presidency, and Syria was destroyed, most recently during the Biden administration. And you can see also, interesting enough here, if you look about a little more than halfway down, Douglas Murray, the Have you ever been to Israel? Yes, he is one of the senior fellows here at the Gatestone Institute. It's a smaller organization. They get about $1.5 million, $2 million a year, whatever. But these guys still collect a check from that. So they engage in lobbying on behalf of Islamophobia, which of course helps Israel take over Syria, which helps U.S. involvement in the Islamic world and helps with that. So that you've got this sort of synergy, if you will, political synergy, where the same people who are profiting from Islamophobia and Israeli aggression are the ones who are lobbying for it. And like John Bolton, like our James Woolsey, and so on. There's this. I picked out these two in this one instance, but you can see here where the government gets the billions, the trillions. They give billions in this case in the form of exclusive contracts to Israel, who is able to make some money as well as expand their territory. And the billions go to the corporations, and then the millions go to the politicians and the lobbyists and the bureaucrats like James Woolsey and John Bolton, who made several $100,000 with the Gatestone. Okay. Let me give you one more example. We're headed toward I hope we are not, but we are headed toward a war in Venezuela, and we're certainly headed toward regime change. And this is interesting. This is a screen grab from a Inspector General report that I grabbed off the Gray Zone. The Gray Zone has some great reporting about Venezuela, especially the Juan Guaido attempted coup in 2019 under Donald Trump and John Bolton. And the ruse they used to try to overturn the Maduro government in Venezuela is what they did was they piled up financial aid and relief supplies on the Colombian border and said, well, we're gonna bring that into Venezuela. And interestingly enough, the Inspector General noted, and if you look at the clip here, I've got it noted. If you look at the red underline, it went through the Department of Defense. Now, this is U.S. Agency for International Development humanitarian aid, and it went through the Department of Defense unnecessarily, according to the Inspector General. Now, keep in mind that the United States government has tried to wage coups using humanitarian aid as a funnel for actual weapons transfers, as they did with the Contras in Nicaragua in the 1980s. Also, the quote here I've got highlighted: not all of these humanitarian commodities were pre-positioned based on the needs assessments. For example, transported commodities included ready-to-use supplemental food that various agencies had already determined it was unnecessary because nutritional data of Venezuelan children did not warrant it at the time. So the whole thing was a ruse to engage in regime change, just like the fake drug war right now is a ruse to engage in regime change. And the interesting thing is they grabbed in the last week a Venezuelan tanker and an oil tanker, because it's about Venezuela's natural resources, not just oil, but they are the world's largest oil resource in the world. They have the largest oil reserves, but they also have gold and emeralds and diamonds and all kinds of other resources. But I created this little meme. Trump officials wonder how Venezuelan oil tanker avoided their radar for so long. And I put a little flag up there, Epstein's list. That might explain it. I don't know. But the idea behind it, behind the coup attempt, and this is another clip from the Gray Zone, is certainly with the 2019 coup attempt under Juan Guaido. This is an interview with Max Blumenthal and a few others. They said they had an eyewitness who was present to all these meetings beforehand planning meetings for the coup, and they said they wanted business contracts. They wanted a way to monetize the aftermath of Maduro-free Venezuela. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with engaging in free market activities, but this is really not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about true competition. We're talking about exclusive contracts that would be worked through the government. And in the case of Juan Guaido, he was a Harvard-trained. He was trained in Harvard, where the CIA does a lot of recruiting. They since the 1940s, they've looked for agents in American Ivy League schools, so Harvard, Yale, et cetera. By the way, the other major opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, Maria Corina is Yale educated and has visited the White House under President Bush, and she also has accepted National Endowment for Democracy money, which National Endowment for Democracy is a CIA cutout. And of course, she won the Nobel Peace Prize recently for, I don't know, opposing Maduro, I guess. I mean, I would like to believe she's a sincere libertarian. She certainly heads the most libertarian party in Venezuela. But at the same time, I'm pretty skeptical. Considering the pedigree and the way she's conducted herself. She has not really given me all kinds of confidence in it. So the idea behind the 2019 coup was, let's overturn the government and get all these exclusive contracts for Venezuela's resources, including oil. There are a number of oil barons. If you go down and read the excellent stories over at the Gray Zone, I know the Gray Zone is economically left, but they do great, honest reporting, factual reporting, and they report that a number of oil interests were involved in planning these coups. So it's not about opening up markets. It's about closing off, changing who has the markets closed off. That's really what it comes down to. And that's what I mean. The economy is rigged. Now, in this case, the economy abroad is being rigged by the U.S. military. All right. But when we go to future episodes, we'll see that the economy domestically also is rigged by the U.S. government on behalf of billionaires. And that's what I want to talk to. So what we'll have is, as future episodes, we'll talk about the finance industry. We'll talk about real estate. We'll talk about big ag, big pharma, the insurance companies, especially health insurance companies, really, because the other insurance companies seem to be pretty much on the up and up. But there's a ton of ways the economy is rigged so that you pay more. You, the working person, pays more, and they get rich. You get poorer, and they get rich. All right. This is not free markets. This is not where you go out to the store and you buy something and you have 100 places where you can buy the same product, and you pick the place that offers you the cheapest price. And you know what? You benefit by getting the cheapest product, and the company you buy from benefits because they make a profit on it, and they can continue to employ people and do all of these wonderful things in the market. That's not what we're talking about. All right. Nothing wrong with that. But what is wrong is when government gets involved, there's force involved, and that means somebody's getting richer and somebody's getting poorer. All right. Add me here. Yeah, now you can see me again. Okay. So that's what I had in mind here. Okay. That's basically what I wanted to cover here. Two examples. We went over two examples of both Syria and Venezuela in 2019, but also to a certain extent, the same thing's happening right now in 2025, as we go into 2026. And it's happened a number of times in the past, whether you talk about the Iran coup of 1953, the Guatemalan coup in 1956, the Nicaraguan Contras had all kinds of, in the 80s, it goes on and on. The United States government is overturning companies for corporations. And you could go back to the 1930s when General Smedley Butler said, I was a henchman for the gangsters of capitalism. And he didn't mean, well, I don't know, maybe he was a socialist. I don't know. But I don't think he meant free market capitalism. He meant the kind of fascist, regulated monopoly, government monopoly capitalism. That's what he meant. And as a libertarian, I oppose that as well. Okay, that's the show for today. I'll be back on Wednesday, and we'll do another episode related to this. Make sure you like, subscribe, share this podcast, and buy me a coffee. Thank you very much. See you in a few days.